Welcome this evening to the weightlifting technique video. We're going to go through some front squat and clean sort of front rack mobility work today. And then this will be part of a sort of a two-part series where we're going to do front squat mobility and front rack mobility today. And then next week we'll touch on breathing and bracing for weightlifting and how those tie together. So the first thing we want to talk about is what makes up a good front rack, or sorry, what makes up a good front squat, which includes a good front rack. So a front squat, really what we're looking for is just that the most important thing is just upright posture. So if you want to go into it, just go into a front squat, with a pretend front squat with your hands on your shoulders here. You'll see that Becca maintains a very upright posture. Her knees are over her toes, her feet are flat on the ground, and then when she drives up, she drives with her chest first, and the bar stays level on her shoulders. So in order to achieve that position, we need to work on ankle sort of mobilization. So the first thing we want to talk about, probably one of the best stretches to do for your ankle mobility is to just go ahead and kneel down. And then you're going to take a kettlebell or any load and put it right on top of your knee and just allow that weight to let your ankle kind of sink down. And then what you want to do is you're going to push with your foot into the weight and then do that for a couple of seconds. And then once you've done pushing, you can release and allow the weight to kind of get you deeper. Obviously, Becca has no shortage of ankle mobility. Her knee is very far out over her toe, so she doesn't really have to do too much of this stretch, but it's a really good option if you are finding yourself limited in that range. So that's one thing to think about. And then what we're going to do is once you've sort of established some ankle flexibility or mobility, the way I would sort of work this in is then I would couple that with some goblet squats. So if you take once you've stretched out both ankles, you're going to take a load and start to squat down. And the most important thing to think about here is, again, making sure that knee gets out really far past the toe or really far out over the ankle, and that will encourage your body to be more in an upright position. I'm going to do one more and just take it slow. Yeah. Great. And so you can do these a couple different ways. You can kind of just go up and down with it like that, or you can do pauses along the way. So if you take one and you pause, do the 3 times. You just pause 3 times along the way, and just making sure that you're focusing on hitting the right positions and keeping your chest up. It's a really good exercise for working on that front rack mobility, or the front rack ankle mobility that you need. You can also do this with a breath count. So if you just do one more, and you take 3 breaths on the way down. So if you go down a little bit, and then you take a big belly breath and reset, and then go down a little bit more. That also is a really good way to start building in some positional awareness for weightlifting. Cool. And so obviously you can do that with any load. Doesn't need to be a kettlebell. You can do it with a plate. You can do it with a rack of sodas. Anything you want. Cool. So now we're going to talk a little bit about front rack and holding the bar in a front rack. Obviously, you want to do this if you have some sort of bar like a PVC. That would be ideal. But what you want to do is think about having your shoulders and having the bar as close to your shoulders as you possibly can. So for a good front rack, what we want to think about is using, turn your back to the camera. Yeah. So what we want to do is think about using the muscles in the upper and the mid back to keep our shoulders strong and stable. So in order to sort of turn those muscles on and get everything working, what we're going to do is a couple of different exercises. So the first one's called the band pull apart. So I really like this exercise because it really encourages you to work on that mid-upper back musculature, which will really encourage a strong front rack. So basically all you're going to do is start with a supinated grip just like that. Give yourself lots of slack because these get hard very quickly. And then what you're going to do is try to using just the muscles in your back and underneath your armpits to pull the band apart as much as you can. Yeah. And you can do sets of 50 if you can. And just really start to feel a burn with these, and that's really great. To make them harder, you're going to take your elbows and push them away from your body a little bit. Yeah. Great. And then if you want, you can go open and then try to move your elbows up into the air while keeping your ribs down. And you'll start to feel some contraction underneath the armpit here. So that's a really good exercise to start with, to learn to recruit the right muscles for the front rack. And you can also do something called the wall slide. Typically you would do this against the wall, but you don't need to. You can do this in the air as well. So all you're going to do is just take your arms and put them in front of you like this. You want to try? You can do it. Demo. So you take your arms, put them in front of you with your forearms facing. No, just let me turn your forearm. With your forearms facing away from you. Good. And then with the same muscles that you just used to do the band pull aparts, you're going to reach your shoulder or your elbows up into the air. And just pretend that you're sliding your arms along a wall. If you have a wall, you can go ahead and use that for some feedback. But I find that these are really effective just to do in the air, and it requires a little bit more concentration. So that's a really good exercise. So once you've done some goblet squats and some ankle mobilization to really open up your ankles to make sure you're squatting in a very upright position. Then you can add in some front rack mobility work and some strengthening of the upper back and shoulders in order to sort of get yourself in a stable position here. And then start playing around with the barbell. But I recommend those if you're having any trouble at all catching your cleans or doing front squats generally, then I really recommend emphasizing some of this mobility work. Again, if you have any questions, you can send me a message or throw it in the comments down below. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.